Go ahead and call this meeting of the Middletown Historic Commission to order. Can you please call the roll?
Roger Daniel.
Here.
Sam Cornwall. Rachel Rutherford.
Here.
Matt Dixon.
Here.
Corey Carter.
Here.
Andy Brickler.
Here.
Michaela Perkins.
Here.
You have quorum.
All right. Would all those that are going to testify before the commission tonight, please raise their right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony that you give here tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the meeting's minutes of the September 21st, 2023 meeting?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I think at the end it says that Dixon called for a vote on adjournment, and I don't think that I was actually.
You were not.
So that may need to be corrected. Did anybody else have any corrections or amendments or additions that needed to be added to the minutes?
No.
Do we have a motion with respect to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The minutes of the September 21st, 2023 meeting of the Middletown Historic Commission are hereby approved. Okay, what is the first item on the agenda?
So the first item on the agenda for tonight is 916 First Avenue. It's an issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the painting of the facade at what was previously Rolling Mill Brewery, which is now Gravel Road. As you can see, as of November 10th, the building has already been painted. The applicant is proposing the painted mural on the front facade along with the painting of the whole entire exterior building. I've included in the application or the staff packet the complete application and showing you his brand details and his color scheme, as well as his logo above. Here's what the building used to look like. You saw what the building was going to look like or what it looks like now. No other permits would be required for this. It is just painting, so there's no building permits required. There's no certificate of zoning compliance required. And to read the appeals, any person directly affected by a decision of the zoning code administrator or the historic commission shall have the right to appeal to the planning commission, provided that a written application for appeal is filed within 20 calendar days after the decision, notice, or order was serviced. That ends my staff report. The applicant is not present. Do you have any questions for me?
The applicant is not present. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak against the application? There being no response, then we will close the public comment period. Is there any discussion amongst the board?
I'd like to vote no because he's already done it. But,
I'll give a little context to this because I asked him about it. So he put his application in, then the meeting got canceled. We didn't have a quorum. Well, he's told me, because I told him ahead of time because he was getting some grant money from the city. And I said, hey, you might want to put your application in ahead because I know you're going to want to paint this as soon as you get that money. So that was his side of the story. So.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. What's your side of that story?
The application was incomplete.
Okay.
And so I was on the grant review committee, reviewed the grant. I was in contact with Dan, the applicant, multiple times. We spoke. I told him what all the application entails, which is the application fee, and the supporting documents. All that was turned in was the initial application, no details of what the building was going to look like, and the fee was not paid for. So the applicant showed up the day of the meeting and asked what time it was going to be because he had not heard any correspondence. I told him application's not complete. I had it in 2 different emails. Be more than willing to forward that to you if you'd like. But
Well, I believe on the original inventory of the district, this was a building that was not considered to be a contributing structure. I am not sure that that's any longer the case, as a lot of the commercial buildings downtown have been demolished or altered since then. Decades have passed since then. It is one of the few remaining commercial buildings on the street, after some fairly recent demolitions. So I think it may be a contributing structure, at least to the downtown portion of the historic district at this point. But, I mean, there is at least the argument that it's still not a contributing structure.
Yeah, when we created the historic district that was actually registered, we stopped before we got there.
No, it's
It,
in the original historic South Main district.
so it's in the original South Main Historic District, but it's not a contributing member from the 2017 registrar data that we have.
And when we created the South Main Commercial
Right.
Historic District, we did not do that.
Well, because it was already in the historic district, but.
So was all the others on that street.
So they're basically saying that there was already determination that it's not a contributing structure more recently. Well, I guess, is the consensus of the commission that it's not a contributing structure or that it is? Because if it's not, then we don't really have much to.
Let's just see if we're gonna vote for it. I just don't like voting for something that's already been done, but I would vote yes for this.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. You can call the vote?
Michaela Perkins. Andy Brickler.
Yes.
Corey Carter.
Yes.
Matt Dixon.
Yes.
Rachel Rutherford.
Yes.
And Roger Daniel.
Yes.
All right. What is the next item that we have on the agenda?
So the next item we have is 1105 Woodside Boulevard. It's for an issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a single-family dwelling. 1105 Woodside Boulevard is a vacant residential lot within the Oakland Conservation District. I want to make a note that it is the Conservation District, so the reason that it's coming through for a certificate of appropriateness is for any new construction, demolitions, or major additions. And as this is the new construction, it needs to be seen before the Historic Commission to ensure that it's maintaining the historic integrity of the neighborhood. Here's the application. I wanted to include that, showing the owner's name, Dickie Brandon, with applicant Dennis Beatty. Dennis Beatty is present for tonight. The new home build is 1,558 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage. I included the site plans as well as the building elevation. It was essentially, that's what you are reviewing. On the right side elevation, there will be either a window added or some other type of architectural feature to break up the sidewall. I spoke to the applicant about that. And then reviewing the next steps following the approval or denial of this application would be that I would review it for the architectural standards. If there is any waivers that need to be done, it'll have to be done through the Architecture Review Board, which would include myself, Roger Daniel, Sam Cornwall, and Monica Ninny, or Councilwoman Ninny. When reviewing the architectural standards, it meets the building orientation, building materials, roof and projections, as well as the overhang. The front face of the building is broken into different plans. The sidewall, after speaking to the applicant, will be broken into different side planes. Windows and doors meet the architectural standards, so does the mass and scale. The front yard setback is also met, and then the street-facing garage shall not comprise more than 50%. I think it's 47 or 48%, so it's close, but it still meets that standard. And the final standard would be utility boxes, which is not shown. So all other architectural standards have been met and would still be reviewed by myself or the Architecture Review Board. I've included the floor plans. And then as you're reviewing the historic integrity of the neighborhood, I have pictures from the north and south side of the same road. The picture to the bottom is on the south side, since the house is going right. So like the vacant lot would be to the left, and then as well as that's the next block up. Just kind of giving you an idea of what the homes look like.
You mentioned utility boxes, but this would be a street drop, wouldn't it? It's not underground, it's not underground.
Oh, I just, when I mentioned the utility box, I just meant that when we're reviewing homes, there would be a utility box that we would have, like the utility box has to be screened. Generally, that's more for like subdivisions when they put the big utility boxes out front. This would be running from the utility line in. So other approvals that would be required is the certificate of zoning compliance, which would be done by myself, and then the various building permits, which include HVAC, plumbing, regular building, a variety of others. Any person directly affected by a decision, the zoning code administrator or the historic commission shall have the right to appeal to the planning commission, provided that a written application for appeal is filed within 20 calendar days after the decision, notice, or order was serviced. That ends my staff report. The applicant is present. Do you have any questions for me?
If the applicant would like to address the commission, if you can come up to the podium here, state your name and address for the record. Okay. Is there any member of the public that would wish to speak in favor of the application? Is there any member of the public that would wish to speak in opposition to the application? There being no response, we will have the commission discussion of the application. It seems when they were giving us models for the infill lots in the Oakland district, they were kind of dead set on against the attached garages that the district that they were talking about either had detached garages or parking in the rear. I think that they had at least one plan that did have an attached garage, but it was rear facing. I can't recall that for sure. It does seem to be that they made a big point about not having the attached garages. And this appears to have a attached garage, and I don't notice that any of the surrounding houses do. Does anybody else remember differently or have an opinion on it, or?
You're referring to the Oakland district when they had all the drawings and the sight lines and all that packet, yep. That's the first thing I saw, right, when I looked at this was, whoa, there's no garage, no front-facing garage of the examples right there. It does change the character of the neighborhood. I also know, working with some other projects in town and challenges with them, it's not easy to do the rear-facing garages. I believe this street would be better use case because it does have an alley, if I remember right. Did you know, James, is there an alley on the back of this house, on this empty property?
I can pull it up.
Because I know, like, Roosevelt, we were kind of pushing them when they were when Brandon Homes was going over there, we were saying, hey, can you do some rear load on the ones off of Central? And then same thing when the Hill project, we were trying to drive some of that just so it matches the neighborhood versus what some people call buck-tooth two-car garage, you know. The main architect detail on the front of the house is your 16-foot by 8 garage.
like the one next door, that 900 Centennial,
Yeah.
has a garage and driveway in the front. This on Centennial, corner lot.
Ah, yeah, up top 900. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
You click on 900 and see what comes up. Yep.
And it's essentially next door.
Yep.
Is that a 1-car or 2-car?
I think it was 2. Hit it again. Looks like 2.
2. Yep.
Would you like me
Is
to
that a
drop
more
the guy
modern
down?
Structure.
Well, it's not very historical, but on the other side, it's really not that historical either. It's like a bungalow.
Yeah.
But if we start approving infill lots based upon the non-contributing structures in the,
This one here on the other side, where it doesn't have a garage door, I mean, they're parking on the
They got a
street
curb cut in.
right
Yep.
in front of it, so it's kind of the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
well, I don't think so. I mean, and it's the difference, what we're looking at is the buildings
Well,
themselves.
I'd rather look at the building with a garage door on it
Yeah.
than maybe a car up on blocks later on.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, we're more concerned with, as the commission, we're meant to be concerned with the structures and whether they are like or unlike the contributing structures. I mean, at some point, if,
We go on down the street a little bit?
Yep. You gonna go south or north?
I don't care.
Mhm.
If I start going a little too fast, just let me know.
Yeah, most of these houses are old enough that you're not gonna have garages.
Yep.
and I guess the point is, are we actually intending to do anything with these reviews? Because if it's just going to be, well, any house that will fit on the lot and meets the citywide architectural standards will approve the construction of, then there's not much point in even us looking at them.
Yeah. I mean, because I know there's a lot of infill opportunity in there. Like hundreds. So, you know, if we set the precedent, that's what it's going to be.
That's a front garage, but it's underneath,
Mm-hmm.
single car.
I would say, you know, for me, like the new architecture style of these type homes, which this one does a lot better, has a lot better sight lines and pitches and everything, but it is that 80% of that house on the front is a garage door, and that changes to me personally, that changes the style. You know, perfect world, yeah, I'd love to see if the applicant would be interested in doing a garage in the back or a back load. I know it changes the whole design and all that, but you know, you can go watch other stuff out there on city stuff, from Brandon Homes at the Roosevelt to the Hill. It's kind of what I've said from the beginning on some of these infills.
Would the applicant be interested in responding to any questions that might be put to him by the commission?
Not really. I didn't design the house. I'm just representing Dickie Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
If it were my design, I would have something to say about it.
Understand.
But I know nobody wants to buy a house without a garage anymore.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just old school. Nobody wants a detached garage. So for sellability, you're limiting
Yeah.
the person that's going to buy it.
Well, I think that's why when they were talking about it, they were suggesting the attached, but rear ones that were not.
But it's like flipping the whole house around to come into the back. I don't know. Like I said, it's not my design. I'm just representing it.
I mean, where are we at with Oakland now?
That's a great question. Because I know it's not a historic district. Help me understand, James, the difference between a conservation district and a historic district.
Yeah, so for the city of Middletown, we determine, well, it's determined that our historic districts or conservation districts are separated in the two categories. Both, well, all of them have been recognized by the National Association, drawing a blank right now for the name, National Register of Historic Places.
Yep.
That's who they're registered with. The Oakland was registered, or it was voted on and approved for the Oakland to be a part of that in April of this year. But when it comes to the city of Middletown, we break it up into historic districts and conservation districts. Historic districts, everything dealing with the building has to be reviewed and approved by the Historic Commission. It's much more stringent, and to become that, there was a higher set of criteria. For the Oakland, there was a lower set of criteria becoming a historic district, as well as what the Historic Commission has to review to approve is only the three things of new home addition, building demolition, and large-scale additions. So a porch or a deck wouldn't have to be reviewed, but if they were going to add on something permanent, something larger, it would have to be reviewed and approved by you. For me and my job, it's basically just the review process. So it's much more of a lenient review process for the Oakland. However, still your job to review it, so.
No, I don't think that we have any clear idea of what standard we're reviewing it against. I mean, as I said, just on the front end, the people that came in and talked to us about the Oakland district basically didn't want detached garages. So at least we have some idea that that is probably generally a no-no for a neighborhood of this character.
I do know I've met with 2 or 3 different builders when they were talking about doing some infill lots around the old high school. And for the price range that they were trying to hit, you can't build a house with a detached garage. It just, economically, they couldn't get the numbers for that price range that the old city manager was trying to hit in that neighborhood. And again, I mean, yeah, that's old style, but nobody wants to walk in the winter from a detached garage in the back to the house. So I understand where Dickie's coming from, trying to put this house in that he can turn around and sell and make a little profit.
And for me, I see, opportunities for, I'm not saying a detached garage, a rear entry, back load. I know that there's not a lot of architecture models out there that have that today, but there are, whatever that place over off 63 Union Village, different style houses, custom homes get it, but they're all backloaded, and they're new construction. Totally different architecture style, but is there a way, because to me personally, as we have all these infill opportunities and Brandon Homes, I love them, I love what they're doing, I support them, man, if they could figure out a couple packages that have rear loads, I think they could do some really good things in town, because there's a lot of opportunity, for me at least. That's my thoughts on it, because like I said,
But you have to have the lot wide enough, or an alley in the back.
yep, the alley, yep. So,
The one I did in Monroe at the nursing home, I guess you call it, the single family houses I did over there, there's a street in the front and a street in the rear.
yep,
And then these guys go in the garage, but then the front of the house is here. It works, but nobody over there really liked it. Management liked it. Because you're coming into the back of your bedrooms. I mean, the front of your house is out front, your kitchen, your living room, your dining room, and you're making somebody come in from the garage, you know, either down a skinny hallway past your bedrooms. I don't know, design-wise, could I find something that worked? Obviously, I did them over in Monroe, so, and they sold. But I think it was because where they were. I'm not sure how much it would do here, and they were expensive.
Yeah, it seems like in a lot of places, though, in the older houses, it's like the family would be entering through the rear or the side, and really only guests would be coming in through the front. I mean, if we approve this, is there anything that we're not going to approve? And if there isn't, is there any reason for us to even be looking at these?
My question would be, like, what's the price point on, I'm not familiar with this district, so, you know, what's the value of these homes in that area?
Fairly low. I mean, that's part of the reason why
They're trying to infill and bring it up.
80 to 90.
Yeah.
So how much would he turn around and try to sell this for? Do you know?
It'd be in the 250.
Okay.
So we
So that's what I'm saying, if you detach that garage, you're looking at probably 300 easy.
Would they be able,
Next to a 75.
could you bring that in that area?
I think, well, my stance, what I've always heard is we as the historic commission can't think about that stuff. That's more for other groups. Ours is the design and architecture and historical piece of it. Does it help the neighborhood move forward?
otherwise the city should just demolish all these houses and replace them with a new subdivision and for more valuable upscale
And
housing.
we've had people propose that.
Yep.
So my question would be, you have to do a,
Real quick, Matt and Dennis, if you're going to continue to speak, we have to have you come up to the dais and swear in.
I'm done.
Okay. It's just a formality. I can't.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. And then I also have the review criteria if you guys would like to review that at any point in time as
Yeah.
well.
I'll pull it up.
So I can read through the review criteria, or we could just take time and self-read, whatever you'd prefer.
Self-reading.
Yeah, I'm not sure these are the right criteria to be looking at for new construction.
I can switch to the next page. Item number 14.
Mm-hmm.
And number 9. Jen?
Those still seem to be additions to existing properties rather than
Or related new construction.
to the property. I think all we really got is new construction shall be compatible with the district in which it is located. That appears to be our sole.
You know how long the lot's been vacant?
I don't. I know that it was city-owned, and the county land bank is the one that demolished the building. There was a land swap done with Dickie Brandon, who's the owner of it, from city-owned. He purchased it from the city, or did a land swap for it. I'm not exactly sure on that. And then we're here. Could have been any time from 2013 to now, but I don't have any record on it.
We ultimately need more that we can refer to, otherwise we're just making decisions arbitrarily. I mean, I don't think that we have a reasoned basis to deny it, because we're not sure
It's compatible.
what compatibility with the district consists of.
I don't think there's a whole lot of consistency in that area to begin with.
Well, supposedly they found that there was, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get the historic district designation.
Can you get a picture of the lot again?
I'm sorry, can you say that?
Can you get a picture of the lot again in that area?
I mean, some parts of the Oakland have more or fewer contributing structures.
Mhm.
Yes. But I mean, part of the whole point was that they were all sort of constructed in the same time in the same handful of styles, and created a sort of coherent, still existing historic neighborhood.
So do we have a proposal of some sort?
Well, I'm saying that based upon what we were told earlier about the plans for the Oakland district, this has at least one feature that was considered to be not compatible when they were evaluating the district. The question is, if we say it's incompatible, then what are we referencing to say? What is or isn't compatible? And I'm not sure that we have any sort of objective guidelines to judge a proposed structure on the standard of compatibility.
Do you remember who made that presentation?
I got it right here. It was back
that
August
Mason?
18th. It's pulling up right now. Combined Plain Oakland Housing, Commercial Public Rehab Design. It's from Annette. Still downloading. There we go. Doesn't say, but if I guess it was Brainwave Construction. Brainwave Construction.
Do you remember how long ago that was?
That was August. The email I got right there that I was able to find was August 18th, 22. Or hold on, I said that wrong. Yeah, 22. I lied. That's when I sent to James. It originally came out in May 19th, 2020. Is when Annette sent that out to all of us that was on commission at that time. And in there are talking about the sight lines. James, I'll send this to you and you can send it to everyone on commission as well. But like even they were talking like a dual purpose space, finished garage with a custom G door as a party room on the back side. You know, different ways to get that garage. Because you're right, I remember this conversation, we were talking about the garages quite a bit. So, I know that's, to your point, that was the document that we got when we were proposing that to be a historic district. And that was what we were kind of basing things on. And that, I don't know if that was used in the packet that went to the National Registry. I do know, we got the document.
Mm-hmm. If we are going to be judging new construction here, we need some sort of guidelines or criteria to refer to so that we're applying something more or less objective rather than just, I mean,
In the
almost-
guidelines that are being done, is there a section on new construction?
For the new historic preservation plan, yes. The draft was shared with you, I think back in, well, the second time I shared with you was in September, but then I shared with you before that. But there was a section for new construction, ensuring that new construction should, maintain historic integrity, should be compatible with the neighborhood, should share similar architectural features along the lines, but
I mean, I would personally make a motion to table this. I think we've got to either get more guidance. I don't know if we wait till the historic preservation
If we
plan.
table it, we got, what, 60 days? Is that what we-
60 days from the date that it was submitted fully.
We have to deny it or
To deny it, yeah, deny it submitted. We won't have that back, I don't think, in 60 days.
But then it will be appealed because we don't really have a,
I'm guessing that those guidelines won't be detailed enough to talk about garage doors
Correct,
themselves.
yeah, they won't. I'd like to know the document I have here, since James haven't, I'll send that to have you guys go get it, but is that really our guidelines? Or is this just something else that we got presented?
The historic preservation plan, when it is completed, will be the guideline
That one, but what,
Yeah.
when the.
from 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember you sent it to me last August, and it was the two-story, skinny, tall homes with the certain architectural features, certain types of facade covers. That was, and this is the best of my recollection from being told about it, because it happened 3 years before I started my employment here, was that it was for infilling on the 40-foot wide lots. So on the interior of Oakland, we have a plethora of those 40-foot wide lots that more comparable to row houses than anything else, and those were the standards meant for that. Those drawings were done up and then sent to a variety of, I think it was put on bid view, or it was put out for an RFP back in 2020, and I don't know what was done since then, but none of those homes were built. But in a tough situation like,
motion.
sorry.
Does anybody wish to second? You originally were gonna table it, and then you said that we would deny it. I believe the motion is to,
I'll redact my motion after knowing that the 60-day.
I make a motion to approve it.
all right, do we have a second for that motion? So our basic options when we have it before us are to deny, to grant subject to conditions, or to table. And we gotta do one of them. Is there any further discussion, or does anybody else have a motion that hopefully someone would be willing to second?
I mean, are we all saying that our concern is the garage? If we start there. The garage being on the front is a concern.
I mean, that is basically the red flag that makes me concerned that we don't really have any standards to apply, so that we're basically just making an arbitrary up or down decision, and based upon each of our own random ideas about what is and isn't compatible based upon a handful of photographs of the neighborhood. And that seems like it isn't enough to make a reasoned judgment on the certificate of appropriateness. I see the red flag as the garage because I remember that it was something was expressed as a concern on the infill lots in this neighborhood. And I'm concerned essentially if we're going to be approving things that have a red flag on them, then I'm not sure why we're reviewing these at all. And that if we're going to deny it, then what is our reasoning for doing so? And is it something that we can essentially, the city can defend in court? Or that isn't just going to be waved away when they appeal it to the Board of Zoning Appeals or Planning Commission or wherever it goes from here.
Planning Commission.
Planning Commission.
And if I could just ask, whenever you do make a decision, whether it's to approve modifications, to continue, or to deny, if you just cite a review criteria.
Well, with a new lot, it's got to be the one of, what is it, 14. We either are basically saying it's compatible or incompatible. All right. I'm meant to be the chair, so I'm not meant to be making motions. And we've had two with no seconds, but we have to do something.
All right, I'll make a motion to deny as submitted.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Can you please call the vote?
Roger Daniel,
No.
vote no to deny, correct? Correct. Perfect. Rachel Rutherford,
I'm gonna vote no.
Matt Dixon,
I'm going to vote yes.
Corey Carter,
Yes.
Andy Brickler,
Yes.
and Michaela Perkins.
All right, there being an equal number of votes in favor and against, the motion fails. Do we have any other motions? Any further discussion?
Should we just table it?
If someone makes a motion to that effect, we can vote on that.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Do we have a second? All right. Can you please call the vote?
Michaela Perkins, Andy Brickler,
Yes.
Corey Carter,
Yes.
Matt Dixon,
Yes.
Rachel Rutherford, and Roger Daniel.
I vote no mainly because I don't see a path out of here in 60 days.
Well,
And the reason I voted for this, I don't know there's a whole lot of compatibility on the street anyway. And then, it really galls me when I see all these empty lots that are around town. And I think that looks a lot better than the empty lot does.
well, there is a way out because it will end up being approved by default if we fail to approve or deny it. So it will be off of our agenda. Even if we can't think of something to do about it in the
Anyway,
next month.
my vote is no.
All right, the motion to table has carried. It will be on our next month's agenda. What is the next item on the agenda?
Next item we have is an issuance of certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of a wall sign. The property is 1373 Central Avenue. It's a single-story brick commercial building. Crooked Dog Comics is the applicant. They're wanting to replace the old Jazzercise sign with the sign you see above. The sign would meet the wall sign standards within the district and would be approved. It would require a certificate of appropriateness, and if electric's being run to it, then it would also need a building permit. I've already covered the Permits required. Any person directly affected by a decision of the zoning code administrator or the historic commission shall have the right to appeal to the planning commission, provided that a written application for appeal is filed within 20 calendar days after the decision, notice, or order was serviced, and the applicant is present.
Would the applicant like to address the commission? All right, if you can please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then verify that you were sworn in at the beginning of the meeting.
My name is Chris Haith. I was sworn in. My home address is 5605 Autumn Drive in Middletown, and the address of the business is 1373 Central Avenue. A little personal about me. I am an air traffic controller up at Dayton Airport, and I've been so since the year 2000. I am going to be retiring in May 31st of 2024. About 10 years ago, my wife and I decided that I was going to follow my dreams of owning and operating a comic book shop, but we never really found a place that we wanted to be. Of course, we've had 6 different addresses since then, but that's okay. We finally found one that we're going to stay, and we love it here in Middletown. And I've told my wife that I'm tired of moving, and my next move is either going to be into the grave or a nursing home. I'm not moving residences again. I grew up as a geeky kid in the 80s, and I know what it's like to be put down. Being a nerd or geek or into this type of stuff, comic books, games, and stuff like that, is more acceptable now. Now that you have, like, you know, in popular culture, but not so much then. And I remember there was a comic book shop owner that took me under her wing, and I was allowed to, for at least 1 hour to 2 hours a week, to go in and to be myself with an adult. And I know that there's some kids around here that could probably use that as well. And not having children of our own, my wife and I would love to be that for some kid to make an impression of, that they made an impression on me 40 years ago. As far as that goes, we plan to be a community staple. There will be a small kids section in the front. We're going to call it Sidekicks. For there, and it will be near the front counter to where there's never going to be anybody, not in view, so parents can do around. We plan to have a very symbiotic relationship with all the other business owners around, because mom wants to take the kid in to buy books or games or whatever. Dad maybe wants to go have a bourbon down at White Dog. They could do that, and they could build on that. We like it here, we love it here, and fully intend to stay here for as long as humanly possible. As far as the sign goes, we've done our homework, and as a historical district, there is electric up to the sign that was behind the sign. That's pre-existing. As far as the brick goes, that old sign that came down, half of it came down, and we just helped it because it basically fell apart in our hands. I don't know what the material is called, but it's like the cheap version of plywood. It basically came apart. We're working with Jim from Digital Visuals, and he's surveyed it up, and he knows exactly where there will be no, to my knowledge, there will be no new holes drilled in either the mortar or the brick. As far as lighting goes, it's gonna be the same type of material, the same type of lighting, the low electrical lighting. We intend to be very green in our area because it's gonna have like light timers and stuff, as well as electrical switches. And it's not gonna be any more invasive light-wise, for light pollution-wise, as any of the other lit signs in town. So we plan to work with the community and for the community. So we want to be a part of it. So if you have any questions or...
Good, no.
All right.
Thank you.
I did my job.
All right. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? There being no response, is there any discussion amongst the commission? Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the application as submitted.
Can you please call the vote?
Roger Daniel.
Yes.
Rachel Rutherford.
Yes.
Matt Dixon.
Yes.
Corey Carter.
Yes.
Annie Brickler.
Yes.
Michaela Perkins.
Okay. You are welcome to stay if you want, but you're also free to go. Thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. So I'll send you an outcome letter and we'll get your permit approved tomorrow. Yep. Have a good day.
Great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Let's see.
New and old business. Do you guys have any comments on the historic preservation plan draft?
I have not had really time to review it in detail.
I've skimmed it, but I don't have anything yet.
Can you send that back out? I didn't
Yep.
see it the other day when I was looking for it.
Back in September, after our last meeting, I believe I sent it back out. I mean, my personal opinion is that I think it's good. There's a lot of shoulds, a lot of recommendations, kind of ideas, but not necessarily locking you in, leaving room for to interpretation, but provide some guidelines. If you'd like, I can send that back out, and I can also send it when, Andy, whenever you send me the homes for the Oakland from Brightview or Bright Construction or whatever that company was, I'll forward that and then draft back out again. Any additional comments, you guys can just email me and I can forward on to our consultant. I reviewed it along with our department director and then our assistant city manager. We've kind of gave the consultants green light to keep pressing forward, fill out the rest of the drafts, because not all the sections were completely filled out. They were highlighted high ideas, so we told them, go ahead and fill that out, get a little bit deeper into that. We'll review it again, and then have another community outreach session.
Was it reviewed by the legal department?
Not yet.
But it will be?
Should be, yes.
Because we're kind of counting on that to be our basis for decisions.
Yep. So the historic preservation plan and the review criteria that's in the development code that you saw earlier, those will be your two guiding factors when making decisions. The review criteria is more of a point of argument for our law department. Let's just say you deny an application. If you cite the review criteria, something for our law department to say, you know, we do have set review criteria that is set forth in the development code. It was approved by city council. And then the historic preservation plan is kind of to help paint a picture for you guys. I think what you struggled with on reviewing the new home construction, I think the historic preservation plan, when it's complete, should be able to provide a little bit more guidance on that. Is there any homes that you guys see in historic districts that you would like me to ask code enforcement to inspect? Is there anything that I can do to help you?
As code enforcement, I mean, for a while there, we were getting like spreadsheets showing what code enforcement was doing within the historic districts. And they seem to be like
Yes.
at least looking at them
Mhm.
as far as enforcement, at least periodically. But it doesn't seem like we've heard much of anything in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that was done by my predecessor's predecessor, Annette Accurso. So we brought this up back in 2020, and I asked her, I passed that over to the person who's in charge of code enforcement. I can't force them to do that. I can ask them, the directive that I received from the law department was that I must wait for you to provide me with an address, which then I can send to code enforcement, and we can start that process. We had that happen with the old Perry Thatcher mural. I don't know if you've seen, but that's been fixed. It's pretty good news. And then 4 North Main Street also with the facade that they painted after hounding them, they came in as well.
Any news on the other mural, the one on the YMCA building? Did
Um,
you have a couple panels missing?
Yes, it did.
Well, also the paint job too. It's been a while. I'm going to touch base again on that and get you an answer.
Well, I think we look at it kind of the other way, that do we need the code enforcement to let us know that there are matters, that there are structures that are of concern. It's kind of it's kind of beyond our scope. I mean, we're meant to be, to some degree, an adjudicatory body, so if we're also the people that are out there are prosecuting the properties, then it's kind of it seems, at least to me, to be a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we are basically the board who's judging whether the properties are in compliance or not, are also the people that are going out there and singling out the properties that are being brought before us. I mean,
Well, it's more from the point of perspective that we have presidents of historic districts and other people who serve in roles in the historic districts. We have people who live in the historic districts. It's just more or less, if you see something, say something. Not necessarily that you have to personally go out yourself. Whenever I am out throughout the city, I always make notes of certain properties and send that to code enforcement as well.
So is there another way to ask the question then? Is there how do they track the violations today? Is that something that you could get back to us of how they track the current violations that they're in their portfolio they're managing?
For like a particular property?
Yeah, just any property, right? Just in general, how do they know that there's a code violation? What spreadsheet, what system are they using? Because they've got to have something they're tracking this in. If that's the case, let's see if there's an opportunity I don't want to make them do more work, but if there's a way to get that data out that we could see, hey, here's the historical districts that are impacted by some of these, to give us a little insight what's going on. Instead of saying, hey, I need this, how do you do it today?
Right. So everything's done through Citizen Serve.
Mm-hmm.
So every single property within the city of Middletown has 2 files, at least one that will show you any type of code enforcement activity. And those files are either considered open or closed. When they're closed, it means that there's been no open violations. When it's open, it means that there's an open violation. That could be for a plethora of things. So we can go back and they can look into each property and say, 1 North Main Street, I don't know, I'm just making up an address. If there's, the grass is too long, I can see that, I can see the pictures, and I can see the code enforcement, the development code or their review criteria that they have in their booklet that they've cited, any letters, any correspondence, any emails that they may have saved and put into that file, which is then they use to pursue cases.
Yep.
But they don't have a sheet that shows all the open violations for all of the city. So Citizen Serve will tell them, so when they open up a file that has a violation, let's say they do it on June 1st, June 20th, Citizen Serve will automatically send them a reminder saying, hey, it's been 20 days, you need to review this property if the file is still open. The file has been closed and the property's been remediated. So that's kind of like the process, how they go through that. But they don't have like a spreadsheet or something else. That's something that a net
Data's
was.
there. I mean, the data's all in the system. It's just, how do we get a report out?
Right. And I can see if they can print something out if that's accessible.
Because I do agree, Matt, is, that was nice seeing that of what was going on. I agree, because I have some properties in my mind, but I'm also like, I don't know if I want to be that person saying, oh, this house in my neighborhood, this house, right? Because then they're going to come to us, and I got to sit here and be like, I brought this to you, right? So it's this weird situation. So for me, if we can get what they're currently looking at, that would help me.
I mean, and nominally, we have tools if the properties are threatened or endangered that we can escalate beyond
Correct.
code enforcement. And I think I asked earlier if we could get the law department or the prosecutor or both in here to talk to us about what they feel our options are and how they would support us in pursuing them. I mean, I'm still increasingly concerned about the U.S. Hotel. Well, it seems to continue to deteriorate, and I'm very concerned that it's not going to be that long before, if another request comes to demolish it, we're not going to be able to deny it because they'll be able to fairly easily demonstrate that it's a hazard to the public. but I'm not sure fundamentally what we can do or induce the city to do to address it.
I mean, I think it's getting interesting as, you know, we kind of look at all these different opportunities or challenges ahead of us with some of these buildings is, you know, how far is the city willing to go?
Yeah, I mean, what is happening with the Manchester now?
So there's an RFP done for the Manchester. The name of the company is slipping my mind. They did sign a contract. I think it was back in September. They had a contractor go in there and do an analysis, scanning all the concrete pillars, wanting to see if the actual structure of itself is stable and can withstand like a remodel and going back into active service. I have not been given an update on that.
Yeah, I think they had 18 months to get back to the city
Yeah,
with a
Wayland.
plan of some sort.
Wasn't it
3
Wayland?
years to get it done.
Yep, Wayland Ventures, and then they're doing their business analysis, seeing what kind of business can go in there. Currently, they're looking at a
They also have the
boutique
First
and
National Bank
Bank.
building.
Yep. And the Swollen, they were thinking about.
Mullins lot.
Was Swollen's lot too, but I couldn't.
Yep, and there's 2 more vacant lots to the north as well.
And I think the Christmas thing that they do for the city is gonna be very upset if anything happens to the Swans.
I think there's already plans to
Move
move that
them over the
over
basin.
on
To the
North,
CSO basin.
The basin.
once they get the basin done. Which, they're driving a lot of piles out there. What's gonna go on top of that they have to go down to bedrock?
So they're going 40 feet deep, and it's going to be a CSO basin. So essentially, just like a large tank that's going to hold water. So we have excess water in certain places, like areas near Sunset Park, where there's areas that flood there. There's areas that flood elsewhere. It's just to increase our capacity to hold water. That's at a very high level.
I just didn't know why they needed that many piles. Looks like they got piles about every 8 feet or so.
Are you saying piles or pylons?
Pilings.
Oh, yes, the ones that they're banging in. I hear it every single day now. That's to keep all the water pipes, utility lines in the road from collapsing into the CSO basin.
Guess we get on 40 feet, right? Need some reinforcement.
Is anything happening with the Getz Tower?
So last I heard personally that is he was still trying to work with Fifth Third to get the fire escape to be exited on the east side onto Fifth Third. I just saw in the paper Fifth Third is leaving, they'll keep closing that branch in the next end of the year.
Will they, I think they'll probably wanna still have an ATM.
So I know he was trying to reach out to Fifth Third last time I asked him about it. He was reaching out to Fifth Third, not getting with the right
Yeah, I think
people.
his son died a week or 2 ago too.
Okay, jeez. So it's probably been a month since I talked to him about it, but that's the holdup I heard from him is fire escape.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard anything different, James. If you have anything?
Just that he was working with Fifth Third for the fire escape, and then Fifth Third is selling the building as well as leaving.
So that may move it along. And who buys it?
What's up with these? Move it along.
For new business for me, I think we gotta put something together. In those 60 days, it could just gonna expire. For me, is there an opportunity that, James, that we could get some more guidance? I know that's our review criteria currently, but compatibility kinda can go, clearly we're split,
Mm-hmm.
50-50.
Ideally, we would have an architect and a civil engineer and a builder on the commission. But I think it's been a while since we've had.
I just put it out there, there's an opportunity in the next, for the next January meeting, I guess, because that would be when the 6 days would come up.
You'll be within the 60 days at our December meeting, but you would not be able to do another motion to continue.
Correct. But is there any way that you, legal, somebody can give us some more guidance on this?
Absolutely. I'll talk to my department director, see
Okay.
what Deborah says, and then we'll also reach out to the law department. And then,
I really personally hated voting no for that, to stop it, because I really want the infill to happen, we need it. But 900 of those homes in that neighborhood changes that neighborhood. If every house has a front garage, it's every new modern subdivision out there. And if that's the case, what's the historical value of that neighborhood? Now, I still struggle with how we got to a historic district to a conservation district. Appreciate you telling me the difference, but how that,
And that's pretty far away from Oakwood
yep,
to begin with,
so.
yeah.
I don't know what you guys think. I just don't want to have this sit there for 60 days and just automatically go through, which I'm not against that either. But I just want to, we tabled it to do something. My only something is more information.
Yeah, I find it a little, it's not our issue, but
Yep.
selling that house for $250,000 or $300,000 in that neighborhood.
With that square footage,
Yeah.
that square footage.
Right.
Just can't see it
Those
with
houses
it
are
being,
probably 70 to 80,000.
Right?
So, you good with that, James?
absolutely.
what you're saying though, you don't wanna approve it and then down the road, they're like, well, they approved it for this house, why can't they approve it for another building down the road or? So,
And James, I sent you that, that's what I was doing on my phone, sent you that email or that packet, so I'll send it to all you guys. But you'll look in there and you'll see, I get what Beatty was saying about, hey, I don't want to walk through my bedroom to get from the back to the front. Look at those floor plans. There's other floor plans out there that your kitchen's in the middle of your house. Your eating kitchen's back there. There's some neat little things these had in there. So I think there's an opportunity personally, just so you guys know, when Brandon Home went to Roosevelt, I was really adamant about that on Central. Like, let's try to get backload. The Hill project, I was very adamant about. I mean, Roger, you were there. Very adamant about backload, right? So if we all say, yep, this is good, and Planning Commission goes through with it, just know everything's going to be front load in Middletown. Every new construction will be front load.
it just looks odd like that though.
Yeah.
It's just,
It makes it look like every other, to me, it makes it look like from 1990s newer. That's what we did. We got rid of architecture and just put the big 16-foot garage and called it architecture door.
You can make them prettier now, don't you know?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm torn because I really want that infill over there because it needs it.
Add
That
some
neighborhood.
metal to it.
Yeah. So, that's the only new business I had.
No, I think it would look better to have the garage,
in the back, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but not every place you're gonna have an alley.
Correct. I think that's where it gets tricky.
Like there's no alley in my house.
So what they've done, when I've traveled on vacation and looked,
I hate
like
my alley.
I go to and look at all the old houses and then how they're doing infill at these new places. So what they do is, yeah, they don't have the house in the front. You have a drive that goes in and it's either a side load that you can't see, or you go all the way back around and do a UE and come in. I've seen it done both ways. So I think if this is something we all feel strongly about, I think it's an opportunity we could set some precedents of like, here's some examples to give to the city, so the city and as these developers come in and infill, they can, hey, here's what we've heard from commission. Do you have a package that could do something like this?
Maybe Dennis will talk to them and come back with something.
Yeah. So, cool.
All right.
Any other old or new business to be brought before the commission? In that case, do we have an emotion?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.